Welcome back to Banging the Can, the Houston sports show that does not apologize for championship rings and tings, presented by Bolin Media. I am your host, Ross Bolin, and it has been a crazy couple weeks in Houston sports. Let's start with the Rockets. Since the NBA draft took place on June 22nd, new head coach Ime Udoka and general manager Rafael Stone have gone on to completely retool this team. My read, paying attention closely as I do, is that the majority of these post-draft moves were Ime Udoka's brainchild, if you will. There's just no way you sign a brand new head coach who is by and large considered to be a top 5 NBA coach at the moment, and then you do what Rafael Stone just did, unless Ime Udoka himself has explicitly signed off on or even requested the moves. It just wouldn't make sense. Like, on any level, it seems to me the clear goal was add veteran presence with championship experience and also Dillon Brooks. First, they signed former Toronto point guard Fred VanVleet to a 3-year, $130 million deal, with the third year of the deal being a team option. And as I said on Twitter, the Rockets don't need more freak athletic talent. They don't. They need leaders. They need veterans with championship experience to mold Jalen Green, Alperen Şengün, Jabari Smith Jr., Amen Thompson, Cam Whitmore. They need winners. That is why they paid Fred VanVleet what they paid him. There were a lot of people making fun of the Rockets, questioning the signing, saying they gave Fred way too much money. And I'm not denying that it was an overpay. It was clearly an overpay, and that's what they had to do to get him away from Toronto, in my opinion. But if you're a fan at home on the couch, who did you want them to sign? This is the thing I keep asking people who come at me on Twitter or Instagram in the comments or in the replies. Like, who did you want? Did you even look at the list of available free agents? Do you see anyone else who checks the boxes that FVV checks? Think of it this way, you ignorant doofus. Fred VanVleet is essentially going to operate as the quarterback of this team, okay? That's what he's here to do. To run the offense, to coach up the young talent, to find them open looks and teach them how to run an efficient offense. Perhaps most importantly, though, he's here to serve as a veteran example of the type of work ethic you have to win in the NBA. Fred was undrafted. This is an undrafted guy, all right? The contract the Rockets just gave him is the largest in the history of the league for an undrafted player. And his success in this league is indicative of the type of dude who knows that shit is earned, not given. He is a worker, a grinder, a leader. That's what this team needs. That's why they paid what they paid for him. It's not your money. That's the other thing about this, like, people bitching about the price tag on him. First of all, the third-year team option is enormous. You can't ignore that. Second of all, it's not like it's coming out of your taxes. You're not paying for it. Why do you give a shit? If the move accomplishes what the brand new head coach, clearly he signed off on this. You think they went and signed a point guard who Ime Udoka wasn't about? That's just not. So I don't get the bitching and the moaning about, like, oh, we way overpaid him. Have you paid attention to NBA free agency in the last several seasons? We once gave Ryan Anderson $80 million. Do you every year this happens for the most part, unless it's one of those freak years where a whole bunch of A-list, A-tier, like future Hall of Fame guys all happen to hit free agency at once. This is the state of the league. Guys get paid more money than our small brains at home are capable of fathoming. All right? That's the way it's like. But this guy has won a championship with the Toronto Raptors. He has made an all-star team. He is an undrafted dude. He's a guy that every single person who said goodbye to him, like with a public statement in terms of the Raptors organization, in terms of their media, had nothing but good things to say about. And you're complaining. This signing I'm all about and cannot in any way fathom how you would be against it. All right? Like if you were trying to check all those boxes, championship caliber player, veteran leader and presence, incredible work ethic to pass down to the young guys, there was no better available option than Fred VanVleet. I give this pickup an A-, and the minus is only because, holy shit, that's a lot of money. But that third-year team option, again, extremely important. It keeps Fred needing to earn that contract. They're only going to pick up that third year, the Rockets, if they think he is still worth the $40+ million a year that they just paid him. So he has to earn it. That keeps him working hard and earnest and hopefully continues him on the track that he's been on since he went undrafted to make him now the highest paid undrafted player in the history of the NBA, right? And it also keeps the Rockets in a more flexible position where 2 years from now, let's say it doesn't work out, they don't have to keep him for the third year. And it keeps his contract much more easily tradable if things don't work out down the line as well, because no team is going to feel like they're on the hook for a third year or 5 years. Like you've got that option, the third-year option as a team, which is enormous. So that all being said, the other big name signing by the Rockets was slightly more controversial and worthy of argument, I would add. His name had been floating around as a potential target for weeks. And I even said on this show, I'm pretty sure they're just using his name to make other players sound better by comparison. And I was wrong. The Rockets signed Dillon Brooks. Yes, that Dillon Brooks, the one who pokes bears, to a 4-year, $80 million contract, which is believed, pay attention, it's believed now that it includes bonuses and incentives per Kelly Iko of The Athletic. So not knowing the full details yet, some of or a lot of that $80 million could be dependent on performance and games played. And we won't know all the ins and outs of the deal until we know. But this is a thing that Raphael Stone has done historically. When these deals first come out, these signings or re-signings, they look like a much larger number than they actually end up being because there are a lot of incentives and bonuses and shit tied in. Now, look, people thought Dillon Brooks was going to be playing in China next season. And if for whatever reason you weren't paying attention to the NBA during the postseason, this is the guy that was on the Memphis Grizzlies, that called LeBron James old, that says he doesn't respect anybody until they give him 40. And then he got the shit beat out of him and didn't show up to 3 consecutive media days and got fined. And then the Grizzlies said that under no circumstances, and I quote, under no circumstances would they be bringing him back to the team. Now, it was my opinion then, just like it is now, that I think the Grizzlies kind of used him as a scapegoat. There was all this negativity in the media around him. They had a lot of negativity in the media, the Grizzlies, around Ja Morant pretty much all season long. They needed somebody to try to pawn that off on. I think they used Dillon Brooks to that extent. Now, NBA Twitter was going nuts with the memes about him needing to learn Mandarin because he was going to be playing in China next season. Clearly, that is not the case, as he just got an $80 million contract. Incentives or no incentives, $80 million is $80 million. He has the chance to make $80 million over 4 years. And it is my opinion, it is my perspective, after thinking about it, because, don't get me wrong, day of, when they announced this, I was like, you got to be fucking shitting me. The Fred VanVleet thing got announced, and I was like, sick, yes, solid, veteran point guard, has a ring, knows what he's doing, hard worker. And then they announced Dillon Brooks, and I was like, God damn it. Never mind. Maybe we don't know what the fuck. But okay, but after the dust settled, now that I've thought about it, you need an enforcer on the team. If you've been watching the Rockets the past couple seasons, that person does not exist. We're kind of soft, frankly. There's not a lot of edge. There's not a lot of attitude. They're not the good kind, anyway. You need that type of dude. You need a defensive stopper. Nobody who watches NBA basketball is arguing that Dillon Brooks is not good at defense. Nobody is arguing that. Nobody is arguing the Rockets have been good at defense over the past few seasons. So you need a defensive stopper. And you need a shit talker. You know who is the same type of player as Dillon Brooks? A guy that, like, when he shoots, you're like, oh, fuck. But sometimes it goes in. He's not a terrible shooter. He's not a good shooter. He's not a terrible shooter. You know who he reminds me of in terms of the role he fills on the Rockets? Draymond Green. You know how many rings that guy's got? And I'm not saying that Dillon Brooks is going to win us 3-4 rings or whatever. I'm not saying he's as good as Draymond Green. But that is the type of role that I believe the Rockets are looking to fill here by signing this doofus. And frankly, before all the shit-talking backfired, we were all about this, NBA fans. We were all about the shit-talking in the post-game pressers that he was putting on. Like, it was fun. It was fun. Then he blew it. And as I said on this show, once you're that guy, you can't stop talking just because things don't go your way. You can't stop showing up to media days. So clearly there's some immaturity issues here still, maybe some attitude issues. And again, I would refer back to the fact that we just signed a brand new head coach who would not have signed off on this signing unless he believed that he could wrangle the guy in and make him work in his system. Do you not agree? You got to at least trust Ime Udoka for a little, like, let's see what he's got. I don't think there's a world in which Raphael Stone could sign Dillon Brooks without Ime Udoka saying to him, yes, I want you to sign Dillon Brooks. I don't see that happening. If anything, like, Tillman Fertitta just got this coach, right? If you start doing a bunch of shit that he is not okay with, who do you think's going to get fired first? Ime Udoka or Raphael Stone? Stone, seemingly smart dude, has to play this safe. I don't think he would have done this. In fact, I'll just go out on a limb and say I know he wouldn't have done it unless Ime Udoka had pretty much fucking asked him to. So he did it, and now we have this lunatic, Dillon Brooks, that we all have to rationalize. We all have to make sense of this. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that immediately I saw through the X's and O's of like, oh, here's how this could play out. Oh, he's our Draymond Green guy. No, this is what I've talked myself into. It is. But I also think it could be correct. That's the thing about it. There's like a kernel of truth to everything I'm saying beyond me just wanting to believe it. A lot of good teams over the last several years, championship winning teams, the Warriors being the best example, obviously, have a guy who, he's one of those dudes that when he's on your team, you love him. When he's on any other team, you fucking hate him. There have always been guys like this in the NBA. We've had one. His bobblehead is above me. Patrick Beverley. Everybody fucking hates Patrick Beverley until Patrick Beverley is on their team. There's been countless dudes like this over the course of NBA history. But yeah, this is where we're at. And I mean, yes, again, it is an overpay in price without argument. And again, it's still dependent on the, you know, it's like the price we actually pay may be significantly less than initially reported by the media. And again, we had the money to do it. We had the cap space. And if you looked at the list of available free agents, there weren't really that many guys. There certainly weren't many guys who filled the role that this guy might fill, which is like the dude who takes all of the hate and the shit talking and is your defensive grind boy. Like that's what the guy is. So we had the money to do it, and the pool of players available in the league was shallow as shit this offseason. Most NBA experts knew going into this offseason that there were going to be some weird signings like this. Now, I don't think they would have guessed that the Rockets would blow, you know, the $200 million that we did on these two guys specifically, but somebody was going to, because there weren't that many people to pick from. And you've got the cap space. You got to fill it. We got a whole bunch of dudes on fucking rookie deals still. So this is where we're at. And yes, there is that one stat floating around. I don't remember exactly what it is, but it's something along the lines of there's only one player in the league who has shot more and missed more over the last 5 years than Dillon Brooks. And it's Fred VanVleet. I've had this fucking stat text message to me through like Instagram screenshots, tweets, quotes from random newspapers around the country. I know. I've seen it. I'm aware. It doesn't make me feel good, admittedly. But if you look at our lineup, our roster, and you expect that either Dillon Brooks or Fred VanVleet will be the leading shot taker and expected to be in any way the leading scorer on this team, then you're not paying attention. Jalen Green is that guy. That's Jalen Green's job. Neither of them are going to be focused on that. And yes, you can pull the quote from Dillon Brooks in Memphis where he said he's more than just a spot-up three-point shooter and a defensive player or whatever. It doesn't matter. He's either going to do what Ime Udoka asks him to do, or it is my opinion that he probably won't play much. And if he doesn't play much, he won't hit any of the incentives or bonuses in his fucking contract. Therefore, he will be doing his job poorly and make less money. So I have confidence that he is going to be incentivized and motivated to do whatever it is that the coach asks him to do. I believe that, and I have to, because I'm trying to maintain some semblance of positivity rolling into next season. Anyway, it's been a chaotic couple weeks as far as the Rockets go, but yeah. Jalen Green, Alperen Şengün, Jabari Smith Jr., and eventually Amen Thompson. Those are the guys we want scoring the basketball at a high clip and taking a lot of shots. I don't think we have to worry too much about Fred VanVleet taking I'm under the impression that in Toronto, they didn't have a problem with him shooting as much as he was shooting. And no, he didn't have a good season last year as far as shooting goes. And as far as Dillon Brooks, I believe Ime can handle him. So, yeah. Ime must be pretty fucking confident that those two being high-volume shooters with low field goal percentages won't matter in his system, right? Right? Anyway, when the smoke cleared, we had 4 veteran players come in through free agency. We got Fred VanVleet, Dillon Brooks, Jock Lawndale, who's going to be our backup center, I'm assuming, because Brook Lopez fucked us. A little bit more on that in a minute. And then Jeff Green, who we've had before and everybody loves. And he just won a ring with the Nuggets. And there's another veteran championship-winning player to plug into the locker room and take us from what had become the laughingstock of the league in terms of culture, minus the Grizzlies, where John Morant should cancel out all of the other good stuff they have going, and put us in a position where we can see some actual growth, maturity, and possibly 40-plus wins. I don't think anybody could take a real stab. I'd like to see what Vegas says about our expected win over-under right now, because I don't know. I hear a lot of people that are expecting us to make the play-in. Udoka's never missed the playoffs in his head coaching career. And obviously he'd like to continue that streak, but I have a really hard time just like having watched the Rockets for as many years as I have. It usually takes guys time to gel. I have a hard time believing we're just going to like suddenly be competing for the playoffs after being a basement dweller for 3 consecutive seasons. Now, I could be totally wrong. I mean, we could win 40-plus games and shock me. But we'll have to wait and see. So, outgoing players, and this is where things get weird. We pretty much just gave away KJ Martin, Ty Washington, Usman Garuba, and Josh Christopher. Now, there's a multiple number of reasons this is interesting. I think Josh Christopher was actually Jalen Green's best friend. And my read on, apparently him and KJ Martin were very close as well. My read on Ty perhaps too. My read on this whole thing is that Jalen Green was too much like in a, I'm just hanging out with my friends instead of like a, I'm here to work zone as far as the NBA goes. And that's probably the reason they did what they did with Josh Christopher and his other close buddies on the team. Now, I would also say that none of those names I just read, maybe KJ Martin, but like I didn't see enough from any of those 4 dudes to make me say like, oh no, what a disaster. I frankly didn't really care. The interesting part of it is that apparently that whole thing was done, the salary dump of losing those 4 guys, to bring in Brook Lopez, who had told the Rockets yes. Then he went turncoat and told the Milwaukee Bucks, never mind, I'm going to stay here. And then they brought in his brother Robin. And he signed again with Milwaukee and fucked the Rockets. That is the story as of me recording this podcast. That is apparently what happened. For everybody who was watching all these moves and going, well, there has to be something else that's about to happen. Apparently, they thought there was something else about to happen. They were about to sign Brook Lopez, which frankly would have made this offseason a rousing success in the eyes of anyone who knows ball. But that did not happen, and now it looks a little bit weird and shaky, and maybe we don't have a fucking center, and who the fuck is Jock Lawndale? Like, that's where we ended up. So fuck Brook Lopez is what I'm saying. No, in all seriousness, he seemed like a nice guy. He does appear to have fucked us, though. That does appear to be what happened. So just if you're like, whoa, all the young guys are gone. Yes, all the young guys were winning us 20 fucking basketball games a year. You have to get older. You've got to bring in maturity. preferably with championship experience, preferably guys that didn't get into public media spats with LeBron James and then get it shoved down their throat, but that's what we got with Dillon Brooks. It's a mixed bag. I think we did okay. We filled some spots that needed to be filled. We're going to have to wait and see. And again, we're all here basically waiting for the same thing next season. What does Ime Udoka bring to the table? Is he as good as he appeared to be in Boston? Is he going to immediately elevate this team to the next level just with his coaching presence? Those are questions that are yet to be answered. But at the very least, I'm excited to see Fred VanVleet run an offense that includes Jalen Green, Alperen Sengun, Jabari Smith Jr. in the starting lineup. That should be fun. That will be fun again. Well, if you haven't been having fun the last few seasons, maybe you haven't been interested, maybe it hasn't been entertaining enough for you, I can promise you at the very least the first half of the season will be all of those things for you this upcoming year as a result of this offseason. So one more thing regarding the Rockets. Fred VanVleet put up as athletes are wont to do, a goodbye Instagram post to the city of Toronto and the Raptors fan base, like thanking them for the support and making him generationally wealthy. And Drake, noted Toronto Raptors fan, also noted Houston stan, commented on his post, my lookalike, because VanVleet is sort of looks like Drake. I don't fucking see it, but apparently this is a thing. He said, my lookalike, the love is forever. Thank you for your character and your contributions over the years. This city will never forget. Good luck with everything on the Guangdong Dragons. I mean the Rockets. Drake, with the Rockets hate. Didn't need that. Did not need that. Could have gone without that, Drake. Drizzy Drake, thanks for that. Fred responded. He replied to Drake's comment, relax, which I thought was perfect. And look, this is kind of indicative of where we're at as a franchise. Like, Drake is a big Houston guy. Everybody knows this about Drake. He fucking loves Houston. He dick rides the culture and, frankly, culturally appropriates our city regularly in his music and his lyrics. Bun B was one of his mentors that put him on and brought him up and gave him the shot that he got. He came through fucking Trill Burgers the other day to support Bun. If Drake is taking shots at the Rockets fucking stink. And it's a joke. It's a joke. But it's also, here's the other side of it. Having spent entirely too much time thinking about this Drake bar from Fred VanVleet's Instagram, the sentence of which makes me want to kill myself. Here's the other side of it. Drake is Toronto's ambassador. By and large, the king of fucking Canada. He's the biggest Raptors fan on the face of the earth. Certainly the most well-known, right? If his whole job is like the Matthew McConaughey Minister of Culture type shit for the Raptors, right? He wants anybody that signs with the Raptors to know, if you bail, I will hate on you publicly on social media and make fun of the team you're going to. Just because it's a little kernel in the back of your mind. One of the big fucking perks to being a Toronto Raptor is that you get to be boys with Drizzy. And he wants you to remember that. And he wants Fred to remember that, and everybody who reports on this comment to remember that, and everybody who sees the social media shit to remember that. So from Drake's perspective, just as everything else in his career, it is a calculated move, and I can respect that. I can. It sucks that we're the butt of the joke. Fucking Guangdong Dragons. But he's not wrong. We haven't done dick since Harden left. And maybe this will be the first season that we do, and maybe it'll be that much sweeter because it's Fred VanVleet that actually takes us to that next level. So we'll have to wait and see. In closing, Rockets-wise, I did see yesterday, and this was very encouraging, Jalen Green is already working out with Fred, which is like, this is what you want to see. You want to see the veteran come in. He's already getting the young guy where he needs to be in terms of work ethic, and that's what we need. That's what we need. Not more social media posts of Jalen humping his boys from college or whatever. These fucking things, these videos keep leaking. If you don't know what I'm talking about, just ignore me. But that's the whole point of bringing in Fred. Is get Jalen Green into all-star shape take him to the next level work ethic-wise, lose his fucking buddy-buddy relationships in the locker room. You can't just be jacking each other off all day. You got to go out and win basketball games, and that's what Fred's going to teach him to do. So, good sign. Great sign. Best sign we've got so far, so it's the one I'm going to cling to, right? If you're a sports bettor looking for a place to get action during the MLB regular season or on UFC fights or boxing matches or soccer or whatever, and you want to make your picks at a place that supports our show, today's sponsor, MyBookie, is the way to go. Just use code ROSS when you sign up to unlock a deposit bonus. Stipulations apply, and you'll get even more dough to throw at your favorite sporting events. Today's episode is brought to you by MyBookie, who has all the prop bets, live lines, alternate lines, and futures that you could possibly need for all the sports all year long. Great online casino as well with live dealers, live blackjack, all the live roulette and the live stuff that you want. Right now, if you join the MyBookie family using the code ROSS, R-O-S-S, at checkout to support the show, you will instantly receive a deposit bonus, giving you even more dough to throw at your favorite sporting events. So what are you waiting for if you're a sports bettor looking for a great platform that also supports your favorite Houston sports podcast? Code ROSS at mybookie.ag is the way to do it, folks. Just use code ROSS to unlock that deposit bonus. Bet anything, anytime, anywhere with MyBookie. As far as the Houston Astros go, what has been a completely unpredictable, anxiety-inducing, and overall surprising season has continued to be all of those things. The Astros rolled into Arlington and took 3 of 4 games, dropping the Rangers division lead down to 3 games, which is obviously huge. There was a point in the season where it looked like we might end up falling to like a double-digit deficit behind the Rangers. And that has not happened. That has not happened. We are only 3 games back as I speak. Jeremy Pena missed the entire series against the Rangers. Jordan Alvarez obviously didn't play, but he has been doing some outfield drills and hitting in the batting cages, which is great. Everyone is aware we are short 3 starting pitchers, and Michael Brantley still hasn't played a game, and yet we took 3 of 4 in Arlington. So that obviously feels great. Huge. Losing that series would have been a miserable fucking clown show. That being said, giving up an 8-run lead in that 3rd game, that was nearly like a season-ending disaster. I legitimately do not know if the morale would have or could have recovered. That would have been the straw that broke the camel's back. And maybe not for the players. Maybe they never give up and they've got a great attitude and hearts of champions and all that. But certainly for the fans, we would have been broken. There would have been no coming back from that for this fan base. We're already miserably bitchy and spoiled, and that would have just been the fucking end of the line. My God, we would have been in hell online. So thankful that did not happen. This was one of the most miserable baseball games I've ever tuned in for. I was actually recording a podcast. I got out of the studio and saw we were up 6-0. And I was like, oh, shit, cool. I can just watch this one on Gamecast and try to get some work done. Fuck the Rangers. Then we put up 4 more runs in the 4th inning, and I tuned out for like a half hour, assuming that the game was legitimately over at that point, only to tune back in and see that we had choked away almost all of the lead. So I turned on the game. We gave up the lead. The Rangers took the lead. I started breaking shit around my office. And then, thank all of the baseball gods, we came back and won. In large part thanks to Chaz McCormick and some clutch hitting. But yeah, Chaz, who, by the way, not starting in today's game against the Rockies, to the chagrin of everyone paying attention, has been unbelievable. Unbelievable and extremely clutch over the last couple of months. He was huge in that miserable 12-11 win over the Rangers, obviously. And the same thing goes for Jose Abreu, who is now suddenly one of the most dangerous hitters on the team, up there with like Kyle Tucker. And a lot of you were calling for Dusty Baker to be fired for continuing to play Jose Abreu. We don't forget, Abreu has been doing his thing. It's been amazing to see. And it's one of those instances where you look back and you say, okay, all the patience that the front office showed, that Dusty Baker showed, it paid off. It paid off. Not just dropping him to the 8 slot or replacing him altogether, obviously paid off. They believed in the dude, and this is one thing that Jeff Bagwell was right about. Bagwell kept saying when he would come on to to be the little guest commentator during the games, he would say like he was certain, not just like, oh, I think, certain that Jose Abreu would turn it around, and he absolutely has. He had a great June, all around. Great June. Great month of baseball, and has continued that here at the beginning of July. So as much as we shit on Bagwell for some of the moves he made, we got to give him some credit for being right about things now and then, and Abreu was definitely one of them. Yanier Diaz has been doing his thing. The point is, as much of a nightmare as this season has been health and injury-wise, guys keep stepping up, and as a result, I think we all owe Dusty Baker an apology and the front office, because yes, the Montero contract looked like dog shit, but now he's showing flashes again. At least there's flashes again. And yes, the Michael Brantley situation is a fucking nightmare with him being shut down again. I'm starting to feel like there's some incompetency in our medical staff. Like, that is one concern I have, but Brantley's still not having played a game. It sucks. And yes, in hindsight, obviously, they wish they had gone after at least one starting pitcher to replace Verlander now that 3 starters have gone down to injuries. But guess what? We're 3 games back of the division lead. The dudes they are pulling up are showing out. We've got some great trade pieces to potentially offer up when it comes to pulling in another starting pitcher or another heavy hitter before the trade deadline. And we are 3 games back of the division lead behind a team that, frankly, should not scare us because the Rangers have had the easiest schedule in the division through the first half of the season. I believe, at least at one point, they had the easiest schedule in all of baseball. So we are right there on their ass. If we can get healthy in the second half of the season, watch the fuck out because this Astros offense will be as potent as it has ever been. We are putting numbers on the board. All right, now we continue another important series, this one against the Colorado Rockies, who took game 1. We took game 1, excuse me. Corey Julks, another guy who has been continuing to crush it, had a 4-hit game, his first 4-hit game of his MLB career in Houston yesterday. It's another guy who's doing amazingly during his rookie season. Kessinger hit his first home run, his first career home run. Dubon continues to do his thing. It has been awkward. It has been scary. But again, for the 400th time this season, I will say it. All things considered, the Astros are in a great spot. In Texans news, or really just football news, J.J. Watt announced on Thursday that he is joining CBS, not CVS, although that was a decent joke. CBS as an NFL analyst in 2023. It appears he will be part of the NFL Today pregame show with James Brown, Bill Cowher, Boomer Esiason, Phil Simms, Nate Burleson. I think JJ will be awesome in the booth. When he did that whole deal with he bought a fucking piece of a English soccer team or whatever, I was like, oh, maybe he won't do media stuff. Maybe he's looking to not work all that much. He's got young kids and stuff. But I'm excited because I think the more he's around football, the more he's around the NFL, the better for the NFL in general, but just for NFL fans. And he's a really smart, obviously extremely personable and likable guy, as we all know. But most importantly, he's a real football fan. And he really does know the game from every position. And he actually knows what he's talking about, which frankly is all too rare of a combination in the sports media world. If you spend a lot of time listening to sports radio, especially national shows, I'm not talking necessarily about local guys, national shows like on ESPN or on CBS or on whatever the fuck, or, what's the satellite radio shit that people, XF, whatever it is. If you spend a lot of time listening to those programs, there are a lot of dudes employed in sports media who do not watch the games. They just make up random fucking shit and ride really old narratives. And James Harden's career has been a great example of this. There's still dudes making the same jokes about Harden and his defense from 8 years ago. There are a lot of guys employed in sports media who don't watch the games they then go on to talk about. They don't watch the players they then go on to critique. And it's weird. It doesn't even make sense to me. If I was being paid millions of dollars, I would never miss a pitch of the Astros. Ever. I am not making millions of dollars. I still only miss a pitch when it's because I fucking have to. So it's good to see JJ working his way into the football media world because he's a legitimate football guy all the way through and through. Knows every position, knows what he's talking about, and is actually passionate about it. So I look forward to seeing JJ dominate the next phase of his career in football as an analyst, and as a Houston Texans Ring of Honor member. That will do it for today's show. But remember, every episode of Banging the Can is available on youtube.com/@bangingthecan. For those of you who would rather watch instead of just listening, go to youtube.com/@bangingthecan and subscribe. Frankly, even if you don't want to watch, if you'd like to help the show out, it helps if you go subscribe on youtube.com/@bangingthecan. On that note, please share the most unapologetic Houston sports show in existence with your friends and family, and also support our sponsors. This week's sponsor, MyBookie. If you are looking for a great platform to get your sports betting done that also supports your favorite Houston sports podcast, mybookie.ag, code Ross when you sign up to unlock that deposit bonus. And check out my media startup, Bolin Media, at bolinmedia.com. I've got a comedy show, the Ross Bolin Podcast, that is available wherever you listen to Banging the Can. Make sure you follow us on social media at Banging the Can on TikTok, as well as Twitter and Instagram at Banging the Can. I am Ross Bolin. You can follow me at WRBOLEN on Instagram and Twitter. I will be back soon. Until next time, H-Town, stay down.